From the dawn of human footsteps across the American continent to the rise of a global superpower, the history of the United States of America is not a simple story, it is a storm. A storm of ambition, conflict, creation, destruction, reinvention, and transformation. This is the dramatic journey of a land that went from scattered tribes to 13 small colonies. And from those colonies to a nation that would one day redefine the modern world. Today, on the Royal Era, we unfold the powerful and cinematic history of the United States of America. Long before the name America existed, vast civilizations thrived on this continent. The ancestors of Native American nations carved out worlds of their own sophisticated societies like the Pueblo, the Mississippians, the Iroquois Confederacy, and countless others. They farmed, traded, built cities, and developed deep spiritual connections with the land. For thousands of years they lived in harmony with nature. But across the Atlantic, a world hungry for trade, wealth, and empire looked westward. And soon, the fates of two worlds would collide. In 1492, Christopher Columbus's voyage began a tidal wave of European exploration. The Spanish conquered the south, the French reached the north, and eventually the British claimed the Atlantic coast. By the early 1700s, 13 English colonies stretched from Massachusetts to Georgia. These colonies grew, becoming cultural mixtures of European settlers, indigenous peoples, and enslaved African men and women forced across the ocean in chains to build a world they could not claim as their own. America was young, diverse, filled with opportunity yet boiling beneath the surface. Then came the spark: taxes, control, and the growing idea that people had rights worth fighting for. Boston protested. Philadelphia debated. Voices grew louder: no taxation without representation. In 1775, the American Revolution ignited. Farmers became soldiers, rebels became patriots, and a colony became a cause. George Washington led an army with few supplies but limitless determination. France joined the struggle. And in 1781, against the world's strongest empire, the impossible happened. The colonies achieved victory. In 1787, the Constitution was written, a blueprint for a republic unlike any in existence. And in 1789, the United States of America was born. But the young nation was fragile. It expanded westward, driven by the belief in manifest destiny, the idea that Americans were destined to stretch from ocean to ocean. This expansion came with ambition, opportunity, and unimaginable cost. Native tribes were pushed from their lands, forced on brutal marshes like the Trail of Tears. States were added, cities rose, factories multiplied, and millions arrived from Europe seeking new lives. Yet beneath the prosperity, a dark question divided the nation: slavery. Could a nation built on freedom continue to enslave millions? The conflict exploded in 1861. The American Civil War, one of the bloodiest conflicts in human history. The North, led by President Abraham Lincoln, fought to preserve the Union. The South fought to protect its own way of life. Brother fought brother, cities burned. Fields turned into graveyards. But in 1865, the Union triumphed, slavery ended, and the nation began the painful journey of rebuilding. Lincoln was assassinated, but his dream of a united nation lived on. As the 19th century ended, America transformed from a rural country into a global industrial force. Railroads tied the continent together, factories powered the economy, immigrants filled the workforce, and inventions changed the world. The telephone, electric light, the automobile all found fertile ground in America. New tycoons like Rockefeller, Carnegie, and Morgan built fortunes bigger than empires. Millions moved west for land, gold, and hope. By 1900, the United States was no longer an experiment, it was a rising giant. Then came 1917, when America entered World War I, helping tilt the balance and change global power forever. But after the war came the Roaring Twenties, an era of jazz, cities, glamour, new freedoms, and innovation. Yet beneath the brightness lurked instability. In 1929, the stock market crashed, plunging the country into the Great Depression. Factories closed. Families suffered. Breadlines grew. But leadership emerged. President Franklin Roosevelt. His New Deal rebuilt the nation step by step, restoring hope. But the world was again burning. In 1941, after the attack on Pearl Harbor, America entered World War II. Factories roared back to life. Soldiers fought across Europe, Africa, and the Pacific. The nation mobilized like never before. The war ended in 1945 with victory, and the United States emerged as a global superpower. Yet victory brought new tension. A new rival appeared: the Soviet Union. The Cold War began an ideological, political, and technological battle that lasted nearly half a century. America fought wars in Korea and Vietnam, supported allies worldwide, built space programs, and developed nuclear arsenals that could destroy the world. But the Cold War was not just weapons, it was also competition for progress. In 1969, the world watched as American astronauts walked on the moon, a moment that defined an era. Meanwhile, within the country, people demanded justice and equality. The civil rights movement, led by figures like Martin Luther King Jr., Rosa Parks, and Malcolm X, challenged segregation and discrimination. Millions marched, laws changed. America transformed itself again through struggle, sacrifice, and courage. The late 20th century brought new economic power, cultural influence, and technological evolution. Hollywood conquered global entertainment. Silicon Valley sparked the digital revolution. American music, fashion, and ideas spread worldwide. In 1991, the Cold War ended, and the United States stood as the lone global superpower. But the 21st century brought new challenges. The attacks of September 11, 2001, shocked the nation and changed its foreign policy for decades. Wars in Afghanistan and Iraq reshaped global politics. Economic crises tested the American system. Technology reshaped society. Yet through every challenge, America evolved, argued, reinvented itself, and pushed forward. Today, the United States remains a country of contrasts: diverse, divided, innovative, powerful, chaotic, creative. A nation built on ideals, yet constantly tested by its own contradictions. Its history is not perfect, but it is dramatic, transformative, and filled with moments that changed the entire world. From indigenous civilizations to colonial struggles, from revolution to civil war, from industrial might to global leadership, from moon landings to the digital age, the story of the United States of America is the story of reinvention. A nation that constantly questions itself, breaks itself, rebuilds itself, and rises again. This is the cinematic history of the United States of America. A story still being written, a journey still unfolding, and a legacy still shaping the future of humanity. And as long as the world watches its storms, its triumphs, its conflicts, and its dreams, America will remain not just a country, but an idea. An idea that continues to influence the destiny of nations.